ChatGPT maker OpenAI just released a new model. And no, it's not GPT-5. It's actually called GPT-4o MINI. But don't think small because I think this is actually going to make a huge difference. Not just on the surface, because it looks like just a light version of OpenAI's latest model, but it's more than that. There's a lot more beneath the surface from a competitive standpoint. And I think this is going to greatly impact how we work, not just in a mini way. So, we're going to be going over that, doing some live testing, and a lot more here on Everyday AI. What's going on, y'all? My name's Jordan Wilson, and Everyday AI, it's for you. It's a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping us all learn and leverage generative AI. And this is, whether you know it or not, you are going to be leveraging GPT-4o MINI a lot in the very near future, even if you don't know it. All right. So if you haven't already, this is one of those. You got to make sure you go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for the free daily newsletter. Check out your show notes if you're listening on the podcast. We always keep all that information in there to quickly get the newsletter that goes along with today's episode, as well as if you want to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn, send an email, whatever you want to do. For our live stream audience, thank you for tuning in. This is technically kind of pre-recorded just by a couple hours. I'm going to be on an airplane at our normal time. So hope you can bear with me, but I'll be in the comments after. Tell me what you think of this new model. And for that reason, make sure if you're looking for your daily dose of AI news, make sure to check out the newsletter. Also, before we get started, one quick fun announcement. This coming up Tuesday, couple days, mark your calendars. That's all I'm going to say. $1,000 live challenge. If you can get every single answer right in real time, there's going to be a $1,000 prize. Whether that's one person, if three people split it, they split that $1,000 prize. If you can get every single question right on ChatGPT and other large language models, we're going to do it. We're launching a little campaign called Thanks a Million. So this is just a little fun event to celebrate that launch. So make sure Tuesday, July 23rd, if you're normally a podcast listener, Tuesday, July 23rd, 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll have the link in the show notes as well. Enough with that. Let's get into the new model. So OpenAI just hours ago released their newest model called GPT-4o MINI. So this is technically a quote unquote mini or lightweight version of their most powerful, and I would say, well, not me, all tests, all benchmarks say the world's most powerful large language model right now is GPT-4o. So this is the light version, right? The featherweight, right? The cheaper and more flexible and faster version of the world's most powerful model. So there are so many business use cases and so many ways that we're going to be using this in the near future. All right, so we're going to be going over all of that, but also another shout out to the newsletter. This didn't come as a surprise to me, or if you listen to this podcast and read our newsletter every day. I literally told you Monday about this model, GPT Mini, going to be coming soon. So make sure you read the newsletter. A lot of times, y'all, I'm a former journalist. I spend so much time researching each and every episode, even just this episode right now. Spent about 2.5, 3 hours reading everything, testing the model out to bring you the latest, the greatest, and the truth. The realest thing in artificial intelligence, I'd say. The show's unedited, unscripted. All right, so let's talk about first big picture. Let's zoom out and talk about what this means. Well, there's a lot of business use case, which we're going to get into, but I even want to talk about in the competitive landscape, right? Because things have changed a lot over the last couple of months. I would say notably, Anthropic has been making some power moves. So Anthropic just released their Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Okay. So Claude has 3 flavors: the smallest and fastest and cheapest, Haiku, the middle version, Sonnet, and the most powerful version, Opus. Well, that was until they released 3.5. Middle model, Sonnet. So they don't have 3.5 for the small one, and they don't have 3.5 for the big one. And we gave you a lot of in-depth insights in our newsletter on why. That's why you got to read it. All right. So anyways, also, we saw Google just also recently come out with their 1.5 Flash. So again, a small version. So And we've been talking about this on the show as well. I've been saying for a long time the future of large language models is smaller models. And it seems like everyone else has been playing there, right? Anthropic has been playing there, right? With Haiku specifically. That's their small, fast model. They just announced last week that you are also now able to fine tune that model on AWS, Amazon Web Services, right? So a lot of flexibility being able to fine tune a model like that. We're going to go into more what that means. Don't worry. But also the same thing with Google 1.5 Flash just announced, I believe, early. I think it was late June, early July. So very recently, in the last couple of weeks. Everyone else has been making this shift toward small models. OpenAI hasn't until today. So people are only talking about the mini part, right? They're only talking about, oh, this is just a smaller version. This is a crappier version of GPT-4o, which a lot of people, I don't understand it, right? If you're a model geek like me, you might appreciate this. Everyone else, you might not, but everyone's making these complaints. Oh, GPT-4o is worse than the previous version, GPT-4 Turbo. No, it's not. I think people have this unrealistic expectation, right? Like when you get something set up for like GPT-4 Turbo, and then you try to use it exactly as is in GPT-4o, and it might not work as well. Well, for a reason, right? You have to re-engineer whatever you built, right? You can't argue. I don't understand people that argue with math and science and benchmarks. GPT-4o is the most capable model by far. It's not even close. Look at the benchmarks, right? All right. So anyways, big competition here. And there's a lot of kind of upward mobility for these other companies, right? Especially Anthropic, when they are going to release a 3.5 Haiku and a 3.5 Opus. I mean, it's going to go wild. All right. So I'm going to try to keep my dorkiness at bay here, but this is why this is ultimately important. All right. So I have a screenshot for our podcast audience. So shout out Tom Keldenick on the Twitter machine here. He kind of broke all this down for us to look at the pricing, because this is ultimately what it comes down to. This isn't just a small version, a faster version of GPT-4o. It is a cost efficient and very capable version. So up until recently, it was Claude Haiku that had the kind of most affordable in terms of power. All right. So there's a quadrant that we will show. I should have thrown it up here for the live stream. I can probably find it, if I can multitask. Okay. But, up until recently, I would say it was Haiku and probably Gemini Flash that had the right kind of balance of cost and output quality, right? So when you are looking at a small model, that's ultimately all these businesses, thousands, tens of thousands of businesses are using OpenAI's API. Should have started by explaining this, right? So many of the systems, of the software, of the tools that you use on a daily basis, you might not even know it because it's happening behind the scenes. The future of just about everything is generative AI, is large language models. And so many of these companies that you use, softwares that you subscribe to, things that social media, everything, right? They're running behind the scenes on large language models. And what that means in most cases is they're using an API from a company like Anthropic Claude, like Google Gemini, like OpenAI. So that's why this cost and output balance is so important, because it impacts our daily lives and we don't even understand it. So before today, if we look at input and output, okay. So I'm not going to go into tokenization, but think of tokens kind of like words. They're parts of words, parts of phrases, right? I've had a whole episode on tokenization, so I'm not going to take up your time. All right. So this is the price per million tokens. All right. So 25 cents input for Claude Haiku and $1.25 output. Comparatively, now we have GPT-4o Mini, 15 cents on the input versus Claude Haiku's 25 cents, cheaper. All right. Marginally. And then we have the output, 60 cents for a million tokens versus $1.25 haiku. And for comparison, GPT-4o, the big boy model, right? Let's do that. $5 per million input. So again, $5 versus 15 cents. And then on the output, $15 for GPT-4o versus 60 cents for GPT-4o mini. All right. So now you can probably, hopefully, understand why that balance is so important, right? The balance of power and affordability. And it's we're going to show you some examples here of why I think this is striking the right balance, right? All right, so let's keep this thing going and let's go over some of the basics here. All right. So, some of the basics of the model. It's more cost effective. We're going to talk about benchmarks, but it got a very impressive 82% MMLU score. So again, this classification of models, right? We're not comparing it to Opus. We're not comparing it to, the most powerful models out there. These are the small, large models, right? I don't know if these are technically considered small language models. I think for that, we'd be looking at, Google Gemini, Nano, and some of the Mistral models, right? So these are technically, think of them as small, large models. I know that's a little confusing. We also don't know how many parameters it is. However, it scored an 82% on the MMLU score. So we're going to talk about a little bit more on those benchmarks here in a little bit. But that is an extremely impressive score for a smaller model. Also, on some instances on the new leaderboards, right? So we talk about the Chatbot Arena leaderboard all the time. It is already out benchmarking GPT-4 Turbo, the previous version before GPT-4o. That is extremely impressive, especially when you look at the cost differentiation. That's what I'm saying. It's the cost, it's the cost, it's the cost. And what that means, well, the output too, right? You have to have that cost output sweet spot. But it is the cost in the output that is going to really change things. All right. A couple other things we talked about: 15 cents per million input, 60 cents per million output, and it is more than 60% cheaper than GPT 3.5 Turbo. Also, this is replacing 3.5 Turbo. All right. That's also important to keep in mind because so many applications, developers, companies started to build a backbone for their future business off of GPT 3.5 Turbo, right? So this is another important thing to keep in mind here. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. I kind of talked about this sweet spot, right? So I'm going to go ahead now for our live stream audience. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'll try for our podcast audience to describe this the best I can. Okay, so this is essentially, you have your x-axis, your y-axis, a little quadrant, right? So price, the more expensive is on the right, and then quality is down. So you don't want to be writing down. That means you're expensive and not good quality. So right now you kind of have GPT 3.5 Turbo there. You have Command R, some other models. Okay. But you want to be in the upper left-hand quadrant. Okay. That means you have the highest quality at the cheapest price. So is GPT-4o Mini the absolute cheapest when it comes to, price per million input and output? No. Mistral and Llama are a little bit cheaper, but the quality of those is much, much lower. I mean, an MMLU score, I don't think people understand. An MMLU of 82 is wild for this price. Wild, right? And I'm getting excited about it because I read these scientific papers like on the weekend. I'm a dork. And I've been reading them for years, right? So even getting something in the 80s, like a year or two ago, was mind-blowing, but expensive. The fact that it is this cheap, if you are a business leader, if you are looking to figure out what is your future in a generative AI world, this changes it. This changes it. It's not even close. All right. So that's kind of an overview of the model. And again, we talk about this significantly decreasing costs. All right. So this is a little graph here, tweeted out by the OpenAI developer account, and it just shows a downward step in the price over time, right? The fact that in March of 2023, so about what, 15 months ago, it was $2 for a million tokens. Now it's 24 cents. That's a blended. That's a blend right there. Just FYI. That's a blend of input output. Going from $2 per million tokens to 24 cents, right? It's a 90% reduction. In the quality is astronomically better. Things are getting cheaper and they are getting better, but faster than anyone ever could have predicted, right? The very famous interview with Bill Gates and Sam Altman on Bill Gates' podcast, that was one of the biggest takeaways, was they were both flabbergasted by how fast the development has come and how much cheaper essentially all these models are, because it is cheaper to train them as well, right? That's another piece of the puzzle, right? When we talk about chip makers, GPU makers like Nvidia, they're becoming more and more efficient and in turn more and more affordable, which drives everyone's costs down. All right. Let's keep this thing going. Let's talk about some capabilities and features of the new GPT-4o model. All right, so it does support text and vision in the API. It's also important to note this is accessible on the front end of ChatGPT. I'm going to show you all of that here in a minute. So this is accessible via the front end of ChatGPT. If you log into your ChatGPT account, you can use it. I don't think there's a lot of use cases if you're using it on the front end. There's a couple that we'll talk about, but for the most part, if you're just logging into ChatGPT and using this as a front end user, you're probably not going to be using this new model a lot. However, if you are a developer, if you're working on the back end, GPT-4o MINI is your new best friend. It is amazing. It is going to change the way that you can do business, right? Because essentially, and this is just an explanation, if you are a beginner here, like myself, I'm kind of a beginner, but I'm kind of not. But for the everyday person, like, why is Jordan talking so much about the cost and the training and all of this? Well, again, like I said, this is going to change how almost all companies online, everyone's AI enabled, right? Go on anything, everything's, on the TV, everything's AI. Guess what? They're all going to be paying significantly less now, which ups the competition in the marketplace. But also, in theory, for consumers, we can start demanding lower prices, or there will be competitors that come up that can provide better quality at lower prices, right? If the quote unquote power, or if the cost of electricity goes down by 90%, and you're in the business of using electricity, guess what? That changes your business. All right. So it does support text and vision in the API and in the chat interface. So it features support for text, images, and coming soon, video, audio inputs and outputs. More on that in a bit. Context window in the API, not in the chat interface, is 128,000 tokens. All right. It supports up to 16K output tokens per request. And same knowledge base, same knowledge cutoff is October 2023. As well as an improved tokenizer for non-English text. In other words, it converts the inputs for non-English better to tokens. That's the thing a lot of people don't understand when we talk about tokens. Go listen to that episode. But essentially, ChatGPT doesn't know words, both when you give it words and it gives it back. It converts everything to tokens to actually understand what you're talking about, right? So the tokenization in other languages is very important. All right, last but not least here in our bullet points, benchmarks and performance. So let's just go straight into the chart for this one. If you're on the podcast, the benchmarks are silly. They're silly. Like, never, even if you follow large language models, did someone a year ago, 2 years ago, could look at this chart and think that this would ever be possible at this price, okay? GPT-4o MINI is outperforming all other small quote unquote small models, except for the Math Vista. All right. So essentially, we have eight different. Yeah, we have eight different benchmarks. So from the MMLU to the drop to the MGSM, math, human eval, MMMU, right? So all these different benchmarks that all researchers put models through, you get a score that tells you, is a model good or is it not? Is it a bunch of marketing or does it actually have the chops? This is the thing I don't understand, y'all, when people are like, oh, GPT-4o is so much worse compared to GPT-4 Turbo. No, it's not. You just have to relook at what you're doing, right? Large language models are generative. That's the thing people don't understand. Just because you had something working in a previous model doesn't mean it's going to work in the next model. Get to know it. You might have to re-engineer some things. Are some things worse? Absolutely. Across the board, no. You can't argue with more than 1 million votes in the chatbot arena leaderboard. All right. So some of these worth noting, some of these metrics. I just want to point out a couple. So MMLU, that is the massive multitask language understanding test. So that is, I would say, still the gold standard. I think we're probably going to be moving to the MMMU as the gold standard because that's multimodal. But the thing of this is text-based, right? MMLU is essentially the ACTs for large language models. It is the gold standard. What is your score, right? And it measures the model's knowledge across 57 different subjects, including STEM, humanities, social sciences, everything, right? Y'all, this blew everything out of the water. It blew out Gemini Flash, Claude Haiku, GPT-3.5 Turbo. It is not close, right? You might look at it on this chart and be like, oh, it's only a 3-point difference behind Gemini Flash and about a 7-point difference behind Claude Haiku. That in MMLU, that is a lifetime away. When we look at the biggest models, they're usually within like a half point, maybe even a 0.1. I believe Opus, Claude 3 Opus, when it first came out, was like 0.1 higher than GPT-4 Turbo, right? Usually it's like a half point. To be 3 to 7 points ahead of your nearest small model competitors means that this is freakishly good. I cannot understate that, how much that little seemingly small margin means in the MMLU. Same thing in math purpose, blows everyone out of the water. We're talking like 30, almost 30 points ahead of the others. Wow. So math purpose is essentially complex math topics such as calculus, linear algebra, higher level mathematics. So it is freaking really good at math. All right. And that's important for data analysis. Again, we have to think, not just what you are going in to do inside of ChatGPT. That's not what this is about. Where this is going to pay dividends and change the way we all work is through the API, is through those hundreds of thousands, right, of different companies, startups, products that you use. You're probably playing with a bunch of AI tools all the time. I have dozens of AI tools that I use on a week-to-week basis. Mostly all of them use GPT. They use the GPT-4 from OpenAI, right? So this is going to change and improve the quality of all these other tools that you use, especially if you're someone in marketing, advertising, communications, or if you're just someone who's constantly playing with AI tools and large language models. This changes everything. All right. All right. Now we're going to have some fun, y'all. Let's go ahead and do a couple of things live. All right. So a while back, let's see if we can get a good view here for our live audience. And hey, podcast crew, I'm going to do my best to describe what we have going on here. Pretty simple stuff. All right. So about a month or so ago, when Claude 3 Opus, Claude 3.5 Sonnet came out, we did some comparisons. We just did some live prompts and we compared the output. Some of them were deterministic, right? There's a right answer. There is a wrong answer. Some of them required us to make a call. All right. So now what I'm doing, I am in the OpenAI playground. Okay. So what that means is kind of the back end. If you build something, all developers who are using the API, this is where they go. But I'll tell you this, you don't have to be a super technical person. You can get a free account. You can go in there and just play in the playground. It's a great way to learn. If you want to become better at prompt engineering, if you want to become better at understanding models, do this inside of the playground. Anyways, so I'm comparing two different models side by side at the same time. So we're going to be asking some questions that have a simple yes and no answer. Is it right or is it wrong? And then we're probably going to be doing some that require a little bit of let's use our brains. Okay. So again, I did this previously between Claude 3.5 Opus and GPT-4o. So now we're going GPT-4o on the left, GPT-4o Mini on the right, doing the same prompts. We're going to be looking at speed. We're going to be looking at quality, and we're going to be looking at, in some cases, a little bit of reasoning and logic. All right. So the first one, again, if you've tuned into the show, we've done these a couple of times. We're not changing the system prompts. We're leaving everything as is. So out of the box, here we go. The first one. I just woke up today with 6 apples and 3 bananas. Yesterday, I ate yesterday I ate a banana and 2 apples. This morning, I will eat 1 apple and no bananas. However, I don't really like apples, and 1 banana may turn brown tomorrow. Assuming nothing else changes, how many apples and bananas will I have tonight? All right, we're going to hit run, and we're going to see who finishes first, and do they both get it right? Wow. Okay. So GPT-4o Mini was faster there. Pretty impressive. All right. And let's see if they got it. Who got it right and who got it wrong? Interestingly enough, GPT-4o got it right. O Mini got it wrong. There we go. We already have one use case. This is one I've seen similar ones like this. I kind of made it up, or modified something similar that I had already seen. So it looks like, let's see where GPT-4o Mini kind of got tripped up. So it got tripped up on something that I put in there to trip models up. I test models all the time. Yeah, I told you guys I'm a geek. All right, so I put something in there about eating the fruit yesterday. But guess what? I started it off by saying, I just woke up today with 6 apples and 3 bananas. So whatever I talk about yesterday is irrelevant. So GPT-4o Mini did not understand that. GPT-4o got it right. The correct answer is 5 apples and 3 bananas. And GPT-4o Mini said 3 apples and 2 bananas. So it got tripped up by yesterday. Hey, if I give you today, yesterday doesn't matter. All right. Let's do another one. Kind of a tricky one. We're going to, I think for the most part, I'm always going to refresh. Well, actually I'm not. It's going to take too long because we're not going to be worried about the context here. All right. The next one here. I'm saying if it takes 3 hours to dry 10 t-shirts in the sun, how long will it take to dry 30 t-shirts in the sun? All right, so let's go ahead, click run. This should be a quick one. All right, so this one, GPT-4o was faster. O Mini was slower. So the opposite. Last time O Mini was faster. All right, the correct answer should be 3 hours. So let's see. GPT-4o got it right. It said it will also take 3 hours. Let's look at 4o Mini. Let's see. And it says it will still take 3 hours. Okay. So our score so far for those keeping track. So we're going to do fast and we're going to do right and wrong. All right. So far we have, it's tied in fast, but in the end, fast doesn't matter if you're wrong, right? So one we have Mini and one we have O, and then right. So right now we have, we're going to do this. We're going to do right. Sorry, y'all. I want to make sure for our podcast audience, we can recap this at the end. All right. So far we have O right. Sorry, I'm making a little chart here. O right got 2. And then we have Mini right. So far, just 1. All right. Next prompt here. This is pretty, well, this one it takes a little logic here. All right. So here we go. And what I do love is at the bottom, you can see the latency or how long it took and also the tokenization. All right. So the next prompt here. A box is locked with a 3-digit numerical code. All we know is that all digits are different. The sum of all digits is 9, and the digit in the middle is the highest. What is the code? So I've even gotten tripped up on this, and models have gotten tripped up. But before I hit enter, there's actually multiple answers. One time I got confused, and a model said this is the only correct answer. And I'm like, huh, yeah, that's right. And no, there's actually multiple answers. So let's go ahead and run it and see how it goes. All right. So both are going pretty fast, still computing. All right. So they finished just about at the same time. It looks like Mini was just a little bit faster, but let's see who got it right. So I'm looking here at GPT-4o. It's walking me through things. It says the digits are different. The sum of the digits is 9. The middle digit is the highest. So it's doing a little bit of a formula. And let's see. So it's going through different cases, case one, case two. So it says, I don't even know if either of these finished generating. They may have stopped. It looks like they both stopped halfway and didn't complete. So I'm going to try this one more time and see if they finish this time. Okay, so it doesn't look like I'm double checking here. It doesn't look like GPT-4o finished this, which generally when I do this, it finishes. I don't know if it's because I'm in the compare mode and doing head to head. It really shouldn't make a difference. So it's going through. Yeah, I'd have to read this. I'd have to read this. I'd have to take a little time. There's a lot of math on the screen. It didn't give me a clear answer. I'm going to try the prompt, and I'm going to say at the end, I'm going to say, please respond only with the correct answer or answers. I'm going to say you do not have to show your work. Sorry, I'm getting confused. Too much math on the screen. It's late. All right, here we go. That worked a little better. So neither of them got it right. We'll just say both. Okay, so neither got it right. So GPT-4o said the code is 273. Middle digit is the highest. However, those do not add up to 9 when combined. And GPT-4o Mini said the code is 147. Also do not add up. So they both got that one wrong. All right, we're going to do just one more test. Maybe we'll do two more. So I'm going to do one. I'm going to say, please let me get the this other prompt that I had ready to go here. So this one is about kind of starting a company. All right, so let's go ahead and here it is. I did this before. This one's a little longer. So I'm going to click run while they go, and I'll look at the latency because this one's a little longer. Okay, so what I'm saying here is create a new company and brand for a future smart home device. This will solve a problem that does not currently exist. To start, come up with the company's name and its first flagship product. Give the product a new branding campaign, go-to-market strategy, tagline, and rationale for why it'll work. Respond in a succinct way, keeping responses to short bullet points, but with ultra-specific facts. All right, so from a speed standpoint, it looks like GPT-4o was slightly faster, but not by a lot. All right. And there is no right or wrong here. This is subjective. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. So let's just see the takeaway here with what GPT-4o came with. It came up with Verity Solutions. The flagship product was Nomizi. Not sure what that is. It's eliminating the complexity and stress associated with managing and memorizing the various names and access code for different smart devices in a home. All right. Okay. I see that. Let's see. The branding campaign is smooth. Management starts here. I got some social media campaigns, simple go-to-market strategy in good multiple phases. Good. The tagline is no measy simple. Okay. Not the best, but not terrible, right? Again, how I wanted the output, right? I said keep it succinct, give it to me bullet points. So I think this is where, in theory, GPT-4o may have shined over GPT-4o Mini. Anyways, let's look at GPT-4o Mini, what it came up with. So it is Home Vigil, and the flagship product is Lifeguard. So again, I'm asking it to solve a problem that does currently not exist. in a future smart home device. All right. So GPT-4o Mini came up with home visual company name. The flagship product is Lifeguard. It is a smart home device equipped with AI-driven sensors to detect subtle changes in a household's atmosphere, such as smells, noises, movements, etc., to predict potential safety hazards. All right, that's pretty good. All right, the branding campaign is safety in the silence. Ooh, okay. I like that from Lifeguard, safety in the silence. Uh, Same thing, go to market strategy. It even gave us a target audience, which I don't think that GPT-4o did. Gave us different channels. All right, I like that. Gave us even a launch event. Whereas for the most part on GPT-4o, it just went through phases. It was awareness, engagement, expansion. Where on the other hand, GPT-4o Mini really took it a little more granular. It gave us a target audience, different channels, different strategies for those different channels, a launch event. So pretty good. And the oh, I just realized, y'all, why we didn't get the full from the code one. It's because I think I have a cutoff here. That's probably what it was. That's probably what it was. All right. So, anyways, I think for this test, I would say GPT-4o Mini won this one. All right. So I'm cranking back up the maximum tokens. I feel I didn't give a fair shake. I kept wondering, I'm like, why is this cutting off when we are asking about the locks? So we're going to do that one more time. But however, I'm giving that one, if I'm being honest, I'm giving that one to Mini. I didn't expect Mini to win in something that, I'm not saying this involved logic and reasoning, but it was much better, right? GPT-4o gave me something kind of complicated. Again, large language models are generative. I'm pretty confident if I did that 100 times, GPT-4o would win out against Mini, but that just shows Mini is capable. If you don't think it is, that just shows to me, that shows me it's capable. All right. I'm going to run this code one more time. That's why it was cutting off. I forgot. I had that setting on there. You can restrict how long the output is so you don't accidentally spend way too much money, right? Because you're paying for the tokens, but they're pretty cheap. All right. So, wow. Okay. A lot here from GPT-4o Mini, and we still just have more math code problems. So here we go from, okay, so we got multiple correct answers from GPT-4o when we reran this. So essentially it needed more memory. That's all it is. It couldn't do it with the limited tokens. It actually wasn't done. I cut it off early. GPT-4o got multiple correct answers. 153, that's correct. Middle digits highest adds up to 9. 163 is not correct. That adds up to 10. So it did get one correct variation, 153. All right, so let's go ahead and look at GPT-4o Mini. So it says one valid code is 243. That's correct. So that adds up to 9. So it didn't give me any wrong answers, GPT-4o Mini. GPT-4o gave me one wrong. There's actually a lot more correct answers. And GPT-4o one time gave me a list of like 15 correct answers. So in this case, actually, GPT-4o Mini got it a little more right because it didn't give me a wrong answer. I'll give that one like a half. It didn't give me any wrong answers. It only gave me one correct answer, whereas GPT-4o gave me a correct answer and an incorrect answer. All right, let's do one more. And this is our last one. This isn't supposed to just be a live head-to-head comparison, but I wanted everyone to be able to get at least a good understanding of this. So for this one, here's what we're going to do. We're going to test the vision capabilities. So I just dropped a photo. I took this on the road in Chicago. All right. And I'm putting in a prompt. So this one, I am pretty curious which one's going to finish first. So I'm saying, please identify where this picture is located, what direction the photo is facing, and every other detail that you can make out. All right. So I'm going to go ahead for our live stream audience. I'm going to throw this up on the screen big so you can look at it. I'm telling you, I got the perfect photo to use for this because it shows like, I don't know, 20 cars, but you can't even see any license plates. So it's not like I'm even putting anyone's, personal data out there. I was kind of happy about that one. However, the correct answer is we're on 9094 heading southeast. And you can tell that so this requires actually a lot of knowledge, which is why I use this, because the way that you can tell this, aside from the order of the buildings, right? That's one way because you have the Chicago skyline. And depending on which way you're looking at it, right? If you're looking at it like north straight down, the buildings, the skyline are going to be in a different order. If you're coming up from the south, they're going to be in a different order, right? So that's one way. But also you can see two different exit signs. So as an example, we have 46A California, 47A Fullerton. So in theory, it should know, right? It's heading in this direction. The numbers are going up, right? So it has plenty of clues. All right, so let's jump in. Let's run this live and see how each model does. Let's go. All right, so put the prompt in. GPT-4o, much faster. Mini took a while to get started. Okay, interesting there. So Mini took longer to get started, but was actually done much faster. GPT-4o got started way quicker, but took a little bit longer. But ultimately, what I care about is who got it correct. All right. So interesting. So the GPT-4, actually, let's keep going left to right here. Great job. GPT-4o. This is very impressive. All right. So it says the photograph is taken in Chicago, Illinois. Landmarks in the background: Willis Tower, John Hancock Center. Cool. It says direction. The photo is facing southeast towards downtown Chicago. Correct. Specific highway details. It's breaking them all down, right? 47A for Fullerton, 47B for California. Yield sign. It's talking about traffic. It's even telling me it's probably during rush hour. It wasn't. It was on a Sunday. I think there was a Cubs game. Anyone else a Cubs fan? Or are we Sox fans? Who's your favorite baseball team? Let me know. Infrastructure. This is great. It's giving me a huge break. It's even going into vegetation. Y'all, the vision models are nutty like a squirrel on keto. All right. Weather and time. My gosh, this is good. It's giving me guesses. It says general vibe. It says typical urban highway. This is good. So it answered everything correctly. Not only did it answer the simple question about where I was and what direction the photo was taking, but I also asked it, give me every other detail that you can make out. So interestingly enough, GPT-4o Mini's vision doesn't give me a lot of the same. It essentially says I can't identify specific locations or details about the image you provided. It does say there's traffic, there's cars, there's tall buildings. It shows that there's Fullerton Avenue and California Avenue. There's photos in the sky. So that's interesting, right? So actually what I'm going to do, so hands down, I'm giving O the win on this. All right. Mini did not win. GPT-4o won this. So I'm going to say, I'm going to add some more things. I'm going to put, please take your time, go step by step, and understand the context clues in order to provide the answers. All right. So I'm wondering, with a little more, quote unquote, prompt engineering, right? Yeah. With a little more prompt engineering, I'm wondering if GPT-4o Mini can do this, because I was assuming it could have. Again, this is available in the API. So if you're thinking, oh, should I be tapping into the API? I mean, it didn't get anything wrong, but it also didn't get it right. Or am I just really underestimating or not giving enough props to the level of detail that GPT-4o gave? All right, so I'm doing it one more time. I'm just doing a rerun. I'm curious if a little bit of extra prompting will help GPT-4o Mini. So same thing, GPT-4o got started right away. Looks like we're getting stalled out. Looks like we're getting stalled out here on GPT-4o Mini. Yeah, server errors. I'm not surprised, y'all. This just came out. People are building on it. They're breaking it. I'm actually surprised how fast it's been, if I'm being honest. GPT-4o Mini, considering probably all dorks in the world are trying to break this thing right now, including myself. We're going to try it one more time, see if we're going to get another error message. But hey, I'm curious, podcast audience, drop me a line. Are you going to be using this? Are you going to be moving everything over to GPT-4o Mini? What tests are you running? All right. So here we go. Same thing. GPT-4o did a great job. Let's see if GPT-4o Mini did a little bit better. So it did, with a little bit more prompting and a little bit more help on my end. It did say Chicago. It noticed the Willis Tower. Although, what's the Willis Tower? Y'all, that's Sears. Don't mess. Now it's giving me more information: traffic situation, road signs, direction. So let's see if it got the direction. The direction the photo is facing appears to be toward the city skyline, suggesting the photographer is moving toward the downtown Chicago. Okay, correct. It didn't get it. So I'm going to try one more time. Again, we're giving the win on this one to GPT-4o. I'm going to say, given all of those context clues, what direction is the photographer facing? All right. GPT-4 already got this right. I'm just wondering if we can squeeze the right answer out of GPT-4o Mini. Gosh, I mean, GPT-4o, super impressive. All right, let's see. So it said, given the context clues, particularly the presence of the Chicago skyline in the background, the photographer is facing east toward downtown. Yeah, it's east, it's southeast, but got it right. So with better, that's y'all, that also goes to show, number one, understanding generative AI. It's a roll of the dice. You're going to get something different if you go in there with a weak prompt. I went in there with a weak prompt. The point of this wasn't prompt engineering, but when I followed it up with a little bit better prompt, and I followed it up with a secondary, when I prompted iteratively, or just followed it up with, hey, now let's try it again in this way, it eventually got it right. All right, so that wraps up our live look. Now, I'm going to quickly go over what no one is talking about. I know this is a longer one, but I cannot underestimate the importance. So, a couple things. If you are on a free account, it's actually hard to access this, right? On the front end of ChatGPT, they actually changed it. So previously you had a traditional model switcher. Now all you have is, and this is brand new as of today, I believe. Now you just have ChatGPT, which is, if you're on the free plan, that's what you're on. And then it says ChatGPT Plus. So, I forgot my other slide here. But essentially, you can still access. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and show you. So you can still access the updated version here. So what you have to do, first you have to prompt, right? And then after you prompt, then you get the new model selector. So if you actually want to try out GPT-4 Mini and you are on a free plan, you can't select it on the normal drop down. You have to first do a prompt, and then there is a model switcher right underneath ChatGPT's response, and then you can do ChatGPT Mini, GPT-4o Mini. So now I'm on Mini, and it's obviously asking me, is this better, the same, or worse? All right. I'm not here to train you right now, model. I'm in the middle of a podcast. All right. So number one thing you need to know, it's a little hard to access for free users on the front end of ChatGPT, which I think a lot of people are. So that's why I wanted to throw this out there. This is everyday AI for everyday people, right? Number two, something people aren't talking about. What does this mean for the future of Apple's plans, right? Because number one, people aren't talking about this fact either. Apple is actually, they built their own large language model. They didn't even mention it by name. Man, I feel bad for all those software developers at Apple during Apple's WWDC in June. They didn't even mention their own large language model by name. They didn't even really explicitly, in the keynote at least, I'm talking about in the keynote, they didn't even explicitly decipher that, yes, when we're doing all of this Apple intelligence, quote unquote, that there's actually two different models. We have our own Apple on-device edge AI model running essentially all the queries that just have to do with the information on your device. And for most everything else, you're going to be prompted to use GPT-4. I believe GPT-4o, right? But what does this mean now? a much smaller model. Again, we don't know how much smaller it is. I'm sure we'll find this out soon. I don't think that this model will be small enough to fit on a future device, right? At least a phone. I think right now, the Google smartphones, the S24s that actually have a large language model living locally on the phone. That's why it's important, right? There's more privacy. It's faster. It's more energy efficient, right? So I think the future is working edge AI, right? On device, smaller models. But I still think that this new model from OpenAI, GPT-4o MINI, is probably too small to run locally. But I would think the next version of it, probably whether that's in 6 months or a year, is probably going to be able to fit, which is wild to think about, right? Which, number one, the impact on the environment, right? The more edge AI that you can run, the better the environment is, right? One of the biggest problems right now is this uses a lot of power, right? A single prompt to Chat GPT takes up 10 times more power than a Google search, right? And as we're using large language models more and more, you have to think of the environmental factor. So moving to edge is better for everyone. Moving to on device is better for everyone. It's faster, it's more secure, it's better for the environment. But right now, it's not really possible for a lot of use cases, right? To get the power that you want, squeezed on a little device, not possible. But I think probably in the future it's going to be. Maybe the next version of GPT-4o MINI might be able to run locally on a smartphone, which would be amazing. So you have to look at the future of this Apple and OpenAI partnership. Here's another, aside from cost, there's actually a reason you might want to use GPT-4o MINI. I talked about, hey, if you're on ChatGPT, you probably aren't going to want to use it because there's real no advantage. You're not paying for it anything differently in ChatGPT, right? There, if you're on the ChatGPT Plus plan, you're paying $20 a month. And so you don't have to worry about cost. The main advantage here is cost in the API. If you're building a third-party application, piece of software, whatever, building, fine-tuning your own model for a company with retrieval augmented generation, right? But here's the other key benefit that no one's really talking about. It is the first model to apply OpenAI's brand new, which we just talked about on the show this week, instruction hierarchy method, which helps to improve the model's ability to resist jailbreaks, prompt injections, and system prompt extractions. So, I mean, that right there is a great reason and why I think so many companies are going to be flocking to GPT-4o MINI, right? You want your business to be safe, right? The last thing you want is prompt injections for someone to jailbreak, right? A lot of companies don't take proper safety precautions, right? And part of it is because it's so easy. It's so easy to essentially create a wrapper, right? Put in a little bit of your company's data, do a little fine tuning. It's not super expensive like it used to be. It's almost so easy that too many companies are doing it and they don't take proper safety measures. So this new version of GPT-4o MINI in their API will be a godsend for those companies that are maybe facing some of those issues. All right. Another thing no one's talking about. And why is no one talking about this? I should have started the show out with this. Ready? Do people not like reading? I still like reading. This was toward the bottom of OpenAI's blog post announcement. So they said, today, GPT-4o MINI supports text and vision in the API with support for text, image, video, and audio inputs and outputs coming in the future. Oh, look at that. I believe this is the first time in writing that we've seen OpenAI said in the future there will be audio and video input output. Sora, right? Yeah. Sora accessible via an API, Sora accessible via ChatGPT, presumably. That's huge. And also video input. Did you guys know that you can actually input a video into ChatGPT right now? Go try it. See, tell me what happens. So this is huge, though. Again, this is all reasonable assumptions pointed to this, right? Yeah, you'll be able to, it's multimodal, right? The future's multimodal. That's the whole point of the GPT-4o, which is Omni. Instead of using technically three separate models on the hood, it's using one. So this was always the assumption, but I believe this is the first time in writing that OpenAI said, hey, input, output, you're going to have video input and output. So pretty big, right? Right now, that's actually one area Gemini's been crushing it in with their super long context window, being able to upload videos, and it can scarily know everything. Yeah, talk about wild use cases of generative AI. All right, number 5, more and better AI is coming everywhere. So like I said, you probably don't even know this, right? As an example, maybe the wealth management company you use has a little AI advisor that you talk to, or maybe a software that you use for work has a customer support bot powered by GPT, right? You probably don't realize it. Apps on your smartphone, so many things use GPT behind the scenes. All right. And so many of them are about to get so much better, right? Which is related to number 6. The prices are right now, but they're going to be getting so affordable. Companies can't afford not to build on generative AI. Let me say that again. Prices for building on top of a large language model are getting so affordable, companies can't afford not to build on it, right? If you would have asked me a year and a half ago, hey, should all companies be building on top of large language models? I said it very early on in the podcast, probably like 13 months ago. I said, no, companies shouldn't, because look at the prices back then, and the quality wasn't good. The quality wasn't good and it was too expensive. Now, my gosh, quality is great and it is cheap. And think now, right? If your company is on the fence today, well, first of all, reach out to us, right? We offer consulting services. We have other partners we work with. We can walk you through that if you're not sure, right? I'm lucky enough I get to talk to super smart people all the time. I just had a conversation today with by the time you guys hear this yesterday, with a senior director at Microsoft AI. I'm lucky enough to get to talk to literally the smartest people in the world building things. So we can help walk you through this. So reach out to us. I have my email, my LinkedIn in the podcast, and you guys know how to get me here on the live stream. But companies need to be building. If you haven't made that decision now, look at this visual on the screen, this step down in price, right? And then think of the increase in quality. You need to be thinking now. Okay. You have to be thinking. So it's getting it right now where you need, and this is going to sound bad, but you need to start comparing the costs to train, deploy, and upkeep a model versus the cost of humans, because it's going to be lopsided soon. It's going to be lopsided, right? That's why I think everyone is going to be working. Not everyone, but so many people are going to be quote unquote working in AI, right? Taking, this I call it first party company data, and turning that into knowledge for your model. All right. Let's see if we can beat the hour mark here. Number 7, energy demands are going to be bonkers. That's my last thing you need to know. I kind of already alluded to that, but all of these things adding up, these models getting faster, cheaper, better, easier to work with, demand is going to be, and I'm not just saying OpenAI GPT-4o MINI, because guess what comes next? Anthropic's going to strike back. Google's going to strike back, which is going to make OpenAI strike back. Energy demands are going to be bonkers until we can get all of these models, or many more of these models, running locally. Energy demands are going to be out of the roof. And so, and at the same time, watch NVIDIA's stock, watch AMD stock, watch Qualcomm stock, all the companies that are making chips. Obviously, NVIDIA has an unfair head start. Their stocks are just going to continue to rise in the long run because we all need the GPUs. All right. So that's it. An in-depth look. I hope if you stuck with me to the end, let me know. I'm always curious. Did you make it to the end? I don't know. Send me an email or DM on LinkedIn with the word pancakes. I'm just curious. Did you make it to the end? Let me know. And I'm hungry for some pancakes. So I hope this delivered, and I hope now you better understand GPT-4o MINI, because like what I talked about in the beginning, it's actually not mini. It's actually, I think, a pretty big deal. This is a pretty big deal. I think this is going to greatly change the way that we all work and really the future of generative AI. All right. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. If this was helpful, please consider reposting this. Leave us a rating if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. Appreciate the support. And don't forget, Tuesday, July 23rd. Hopefully, you're listening or watching this before that time. Mark your freaking calendars, y'all. 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, July 23rd. The link for the LinkedIn live stream. Hopefully, LinkedIn doesn't go down. If so, you can join on YouTube. You got to get your question, you got to get your answers in live. All right. $1,000 to anyone who gets a perfect score. If no one gets a perfect score, no one gets the money. So there's going to be some easy questions. There's going to be some trick questions. But if you are an avid listener of the Everyday AI Show, you're probably have a decent chance that you're going to get most of these right. You got to be quick, but you got to be there. So please join us and make sure to go to youreverydayai.com. Sign up for the free daily newsletter. Thanks for tuning in. Can't wait to see you next week and every day for more